right, here we go. Can we start? Could I have your attention, please? So the first thing I have to let you know is I changed the date of our next mandatory meeting from October 5th to October 10th.
I'm on vacation from the 10th until the 17th.
No problem.
Okay?
You can join us virtually. Yeah. So I understand if that turns out that you made plans and this had to change. So just email me if you're not going to be able to make it. But the reason I changed this is I was looking into the schedule, and that's actually the day that your radio feature script is due. And my intention was that we would all get together to share our work periodically, and that's an important thing to share. So I don't know why I had it scheduled 5 days before it's actually due, but there you go. So now we've rescheduled to October 10th, and the benefit of that is also our midterm exam is on the 12th. So we'll be able to, we will review together basically for the midterm exam, which is good. After that, I'll make the exam. You can take the exam online or you can take the exam on paper here in class. So we'll arrange for that. But basically, I did this in the other class. The exam will open up online during the time that we would regularly meet in class. So if you can't attend the class to take the midterm, you can, log in and do it online while the class is sitting and doing it. And if for some reason Canvas messes up, which it has been lately, then we'll reschedule and I'll leave it open for a period of time, and you can take the exam remotely at a time when Canvas is actually working. So that's how we'll handle the midterm, which is on October 12th. Right? Nope. Okay, gotcha. So that's just the news, October 10th. This is the new time that we're going to meet, and I sent an announcement about that, or there should be an announcement going out about that. All right, cool. So looking ahead to what's coming up, the two-story ideas were due on Tuesday. Next Tuesday, I'd like you to submit a list of questions that you'll ask for the story that you decide to go ahead with. And then you got a couple of weeks to actually conduct the interview and get together the answers to your questions and work those into the radio feature script. And meanwhile, in that interim, we'll be playing examples of radio features and talking about writing for that longer form. So that's what's coming up. And last class, we talked a lot about interviewing. We'll finish up that discussion after we hear some of your story ideas, which I'm looking forward to hearing. So just to, I know I could tell as we were talking about interviewing in a general sense, which is how the textbook presents that to us, that I should be more specific and repeat myself maybe from last class a little bit. But here I want to draw a contrast between the work of a print journalist and of a broadcast journalist, and to tell you that print journalists go and interview people who are making the news, people who are doing stuff that they're writing about. So they're going and gathering facts and impressions and feelings from the people that they're interviewing. And it's all coming in a textual form, right? They're taking notes, they're recording quotes and stuff like that. And when they're done, they can come back to their desk and write a story, and they can take a quote from here, a quote from there, an impression here, and they can put those together into a story which is an accurate representation of what happened, but which draws on a lot of different things that happened at different moments. And you can write that very effectively as a print story. In broadcast journalism, we have the additional need to produce sound bites, which we can edit into an audiovisual form, which means often we need to get a more concise rendering of the information, maybe in a package or in a 30-second sound bite that we can extract and edit into a video or an audio report. So in broadcast journalism, we have that additional requirement or constraint that not only we get the information, the impressions, the feelings, but also that we go back, make sure that we get them in chunks that we can edit, okay? So I know this is a writing for broadcast media class, but luckily in this assignment anyway, as you go and interview, you have all of the freedom of a print journalist to ask your questions, get the best possible sound bites as resulting from those questions, and taking again information, impressions, feelings, and quotes, and working them into your radio script without regard for needing to edit a final product. We are only producing a script. We're also producing a short script, no more than 2 minutes. So although our chapter may have talked about some forms of interviewing that could go on for hours, a podcast with an 1.5 hour long interview, and the content of the podcast is just the interview. It's, Terry Gross sitting down with somebody and talking for an hour or something like that. We're doing a radio feature, which is a short, 2-minute program in which you're just going to be using sound bites that you have extracted from the interview, maybe 15 seconds long, maybe 20 seconds long, and you're going to be stringing those together with your own storytelling in your own voice. Okay, so I wanted that to be clear. You are not going out to have an hour-long talk with somebody and producing an 20-page transcript of that as here. This is what everybody said. That's not what you do. You go out and you're interviewing specifically in order to get impressions, facts, quotes from your source that you're going to talk to, whether it be about the event that's going to happen or about the profile that you're doing about them. So I wanted to make that clear that eventually what you'll be writing out from the interview that you do are just short sound bites, 15 to 20 seconds long, 3 to 5 sentences maybe maximum. Maybe you're only going to be using a sentence here, a sentence there. All right. So just that we're clear about that, because that's going to impact what you're going out to interview about. So good. And we can talk a little bit more about interviewing after we hear your story ideas and kind of wrap up on that chapter and see how it pertains to our actual assignment, which is the radio feature. Just stretching, Kyle?
Yeah,
okay,
I'm sorry.
Great, no problem. So on a voluntary basis, who would like to tell us about their story ideas? I asked for 2, and we're hoping you'll pick just one that you feel best about and go ahead and do it. JP?
So my story idea is...
Can you talk louder, please?
Yeah, because we all do want to hear it.
So my story idea is a local street fair in the Hunters Point Shipyard. It's next Saturday, and the reason I'm doing this is because it's the very first street fair organized by this shipyard organization, and it could really impact the local neighborhood.
Sounds like a great topic. So JP, just if you didn't hear him in the back, he's doing an event next weekend, I guess. There's a street fair put on by a shipyard organization.
Like the San Francisco Shipyard. It's basically what they're called.
Which is a community organization. I guess they've got space in the shipyard to do events and stuff?
Yeah.
Okay. And do you have a contact with any of the organizers?
The only contact I have is an email. I already sent them one.
Okay.
I haven't heard from them back.
Yeah, that's okay. So there's the
Tricky part.
Yeah, because the event sounds great. I mean, and you've got already a good angle on the event because, as you were saying, this is the first of its kind, and it could have a positive impact on the neighborhood, right? So that is a pretty good theme to start with for your reporting. So the difficulty is just making contact.
Yeah.
Anybody have some tips? Yeah.
So the people that are probably the best to contact would be the Port Authority of San Francisco. And if you contact them, I think you can contact them online easily. Their information should be available on sfgut.org. And just tell them what you want to do and you're a student and you're interested. Because they meet twice a month at the Ferry Building. And they're always discussing things that are happening. So I'm sure they'd be more than happy to have somebody, interested in something that they're doing there. 'Cause they're
Just
always trying to do different stuff.
To piggyback on that, it's actually not the Port Authority for this event.
Not for that particular one?
I pulled it up. It's the SF Shipyard.
Yeah, that.
Okay.
They're on Twitter, so if you wanted to contact them on Twitter, it's at the SF Shipyard, or their website's the same. But usually they have someone running a Twitter account that deals with PR too, so they'll connect you with the PR person that's right.
What about Facebook?
I'm sorry, what?
What about Facebook?
I don't see anything on their site here about Facebook, but that is an option.
Oh.
I personally don't really use it.
Facebook, usually they don't reply right away, right?
Yeah.
Oh, just a phone call.
Yeah.
They don't have their phone number on there.
Okay. Usually, from my limited experience, you send out an initial email and wait a little bit until they reply, which they haven't, and then you have a reason to call and say, hey, I called. All right, send you an email,
Yeah.
just following up, and then go from there.
Yeah, they don't have phone numbers.
There's no phone number at all.
They have phone numbers for commercial people, but not
Yeah.
for
That's
what
it.
Is this the same outfit, Shipyard Trust for the Arts? or-
No.
No. Oh, no? Okay.
But on the sfshipyard.com, it says their contact is info@theshipyard.com.
Yeah, I emailed them.
Is there a different one for just PR directly? No?
That one's just, it has commercial, community, retail, residential.
Oh.
That's it.
Okay. Press?
But this is a big PR thing, because isn't this a Superfund site?
A what?
Superfund site? Do you know what those are?
No.
Okay, I'll waste too much time explaining that.
Righto. But
It's where they
federal grant to clean up environmental problems.
Superfund sites are where the government dumped trash that they shouldn't have dumped, and now it's infected the land.
In our case, nuclear waste from test, ships that were out there during bomb testing. Okay. But those are good tips. Is there any? I love the idea of using Twitter to try to contact them. Not because it's a new technology, but because you kind of like visibly are asking for a response, so you're more
They're
likely
more
to get-
pressure to reply.
Yeah, there's a little more pressure to reply. Just in general, I mean, I've said this to individuals, but sending out an email is always a great first try, but it rarely brings back a prompt response. And people who want results are usually on the phone, but it's hard to find the phone number. So then you're doing your best to just get an immediate response without the phone number or whatever, doing your best. So Twitter's great because it's a publicly visible request for information. All right, great. Who else would like to? So you're set. That sounds real good. And we won't ask you about your B story, but everyone should have two stories.
Yeah.
Well, let's go, Nick, and then Carmen. Yeah.
My story is I'm interviewing a local independent wrestler who's participating in the independent wrestling show this Friday at Jefferson High School. He's an alumni of Jefferson High School, and I'm just asking him about what's it like to come back to where you graduated and to see yourself now wrestling in the Cow Palace, wrestling in WWE.
Another good angle. And so this is a profile, but
I have the idea of maybe like doing a brief talking about the event and then doing an interview, like a profile and event piece.
right.
But
So in this case, because you're doing a profile and he's involved in an event, it sort of depends on your focus. But from the question that you just threw out there, which is an excellent question, which is kind of hometown boy makes good type of thing, it's more of a profile. But it's got a news peg if you want. It's definitely timely as well because he's competing around here. So use that. But yeah, I'd call it a profile.
I actually just sent him all the questions, so I'm gonna interview him this Friday. So
That's great. Were you doing that? Did he ask to have all the questions? It's a guy, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I talked to him ahead of time and he was totally down for it. I sent it to him and he told me he'll send me the questions. He'll write them all down.
Nice.
So,
Sounds like a good one. Yeah.
thank you. So I'm just trying to figure out now because of now I have to just cut half of it out, like, how would that work?
Well, wait till you get it.
Okay.
Right. Okay, wait till you get it and then see what needs to come out. Carmen?
My event is actually tonight. It's part of a series of events by a community called Bay Area Girl Geek. And it's like the name says, it's a community of Bay Area female techs in the industry that meet up to do. They get sponsors from other tech companies, like almost weekly, to go do dinners, to have a networking and a panel session about, usually about the sponsored company. So today it's EA.
Okay.
So it's which is Electronic Arts video game company. So it's some of the female tech people from EA coming and talking about some of the games that they've recently produced and everything, and about how diversity is like slowly coming into the gaming industry. And it's supposed to like bring anyone that's interested to like network, have food, and just like get to know each other.
Do you see any characters that you'll be developing out of this, like individuals that tell their story?
The founders of the dinner series are usually there, and they're usually pretty interesting. And like I was thinking, if I'm able to get a chance to talk to them, I did send an email, but they're kind of busy because they're always every week they're trying to get new companies for this to see how like what prompted them to like start this series, because it's been going on for almost 2 years now. The other idea is possibly interviewing some of the, because I go to a couple of these, some of the people I see regularly at these network events and see like what the benefits they get out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, that sounds like both perspectives would be, good and a nice balance between someone who's attending and someone who's organizing. And I'm just thinking that our need to establish the importance of any story that we tell can, really be met with a good kind of personal narrative or a character at the start of it, even if it's just one of the organizers saying, I was sick and tired of hearing, the stuff that I was reading online about, women game developers or something like that, or, just that, I think can establish, the importance of it in an immediate way. Yeah. So that sounds great. You're just going to have to be quick on your feet to talk to whoever you think might be most useful to talk to. Yeah. Nice. Good event idea. Micah?
So I'm going to be covering for my event the Fort Mason book sale run by the Friends of the Public Library. It's the 53rd one of them, and it's going on from 21st to the 24th, and then the last day all the books are $1. So I called the Friends of the Public Library and they said they weren't really interested in setting up an interview, but I could go there would be librarians and volunteers, and they said they'd be happy to answer questions. So I was planning on going tomorrow.
Okay. Right.
And I was probably going to focus on kind of why this event needed to exist in the first place. And while I like the event and I've gone to it before, I want to focus on why the public library needs the funding from this and why they aren't receiving it from the city government.
Oh, sounds like a good story. Okay. And so while you're there, you'll be searching around for someone who could give you the best answer as to that kind of question. Right?
I hope so.
Right. Because anybody there could tell you the public library should have money, but maybe there's somebody there who could tell you, how much this contributes and why it's important and such. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Good event.
Hope so.
Yeah. All right. Other ideas? Yeah, Kyle.
So, I guess mine's an event. That's kind of the direction I'm leaning with it. It's a nightly event, and it's the increasing van life community here out front of City College.
Okay.
And just in the kind of surrounding neighborhood. But I want to kind of get interviews from a range of people. Trying to find some people that are currently living in vans. I'm also really interested in getting some of the perspective from the neighborhood over here, especially like the strip right along the street that is kind of visibly seeing an increase in van life community just like in front of their homes. I know I've been targeted out twice when I parked on the other side of the street, so there's that. And then I also have set up to do an interview with the police because I'm kind of interested in getting the perspective of like what they're being told or what they're doing to deal with it now, if anything, and what it would take push-wise from the city, from the neighborhood, from government to kind of start having to take more measures to deal with whatever's going on.
Cool. So there's conflict potentially in that, which will interest people. That's one of our easy things. And so in terms of each, there's 3 basic sources there. I guess you have contacts already in the van living community, right? So
Contacts in 2 of the 3. I don't have the neighborhood.
the neighborhood, yeah.
I'm thinking about just like making up some flyers and leaving them along like a strip of the neighborhood doors. Just
Try
kind of
next
like,
door.
what?
Nextdoor.com. There's a neighborhood group for this neighborhood, and they talk about stuff like that on there. I have a friend who lives here.
Okay.
Good. That would be less threatening than ringing the bell during daylight hours.
What do you think of the vans?
I'm working on a story at City College for, about, the more and more vans are showing up outside. Could you tell me how you feel about it?
Yeah.
If you show up during the daylight hours, that might be a way to, yeah. You could, you have the online access too. You could try the next door approach. Yeah. Okay, I mean, it's good to gather more information and sources at this point, because after we do the radio script, we'll do a TV script, and then you need more sources on this. So
Yeah, I figured
already
it's
have
kind
it.
of going to be a cumulative thing, and then I also would like to kind of dive into some of the archives from the city itself, because I know in doing my research before coming out here to figure out what I was going to be diving into, there's a lot of conversations and articles that have already been written up on laws, regulations, groups that are trying to do things about it.
yeah.
I know at one point the city was talking about trying to create even like a giant lot somewhere where vehicle dwellers would be able to kind of stay, and it would be set up for that, but they didn't know what organizations and what parts of government would really oversee that or how to make it happen. So I don't
Right.
think anything ever
Right.
came of it. But
That turned into very bad PR for Portland, that type of thing, but whatever. So this sounds good. I mean, even in the process that you're talking about there, I could see, for instance, if you started your radio feature as like let's say a profile of, one or a couple of the van livers who are most representative. Let's say, if such a thing exists. If we're trying to understand why they're out there and what challenges they face and how their connection to the community is happening, that might be, a first thing. And then I'm just reminding everybody about how this is structured. You go back to your original reporting to do a TV package at the end of October, and that might be a place where you could bring in yet another set of sources. And definitely you're interested in doing the background of this. And usually a lot of the background that you can get out of the type of research you're saying could be very useful for a web version of this finally. And we're doing a web version of these stories on November 14th. So you may jump in and try to get all this information right away, but also, as you said, it could be cumulative, and you could start with, what you have access to right now,
yeah,
and then build it out as the assignments continue,
I figured at the very least, if I don't have like the neighborhood by this first piece of it, I have at least one couple living in a van that's willing to talk and be interviewed. I have at least 2 police officers that are willing to sit down and interview.
Yeah. So that's a great start.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. So you want to go forward with that, and then the other stuff could fall in quite naturally as the whole thing continues. What is this thing? It's always.
Oh
I'm like,
It's a projector.
I know, it's just like in my face all the time. I'm gonna talk. Okay, so that sounds like a really interesting focus. Good questions coming out of that, and as I took the advantage to try to let you know again how this whole original reporting side of the class goes. So the idea is that you're choosing a story now and going forward with it, gathering information, writing it up in one format, later on in another format, and finally in a web format. And at each juncture, you're kind of adding in some extra information and working it into a different type of script, you know. So that's how we do it. And then stuck in the middle there, we do a few other things which are simpler than this. Cool. Okay. So I'd say nice. I'm hearing lots of great story ideas. Other folks?
Feedback.
Janet?
For my event, I found an excuse to go to the Shanty Sing at the SF Maritime Park on one of the boats. First Saturday of every month, they do a sea shanty sing, which is apparently like boat songs to work to. Like the rhythm of the song is supposed to help the people working the rigging and the rest of the ship to work on pace with each other.
Okay.
And it just sounds so weird. Like, I know there's going to be some boat weirdos there and families and other people who just think boats are cool. And it'll get good audio because they'll be singing. And I think it's pretty cool because, like, San Francisco's maritime history now isn't that important. People don't think of it as a big
Sure.
port as it was in the age of sail. So it might be interesting to San Francisco residents or local historians.
Got you.
Ended up using words like boat weirdos.
Totally. I'm a self-professed boat weirdo.
Pirate shanties?
Not pirates.
Just songs to sing on boats.
Is it not at like Pier 39 where they have the older boats by
Kinda.
like the visitors?
Yeah, it's
center?
on Hyde Street Pier.
Yeah,
just past
okay.
39.
Yeah, I used to work right across the street. There's like a shorter old captain guy that's like all white hair.
That dude sounds legit.
Yeah. If you see him, he's a good person to interview.
Cool, thank you.
So it has the oddity factor for
Yeah.
sure. That's out of the ordinary, and good opportunities for nat sound, which I guess we'll just be writing into the script, which is pretty boring. But were you to actually produce this, which you might be
I
planning
will.
on doing,
I have class.
yeah. So bring your release forms with you so that you can actually get them to sign off on using what you record. And sounds interesting. And then profile-wise, did you have an alternative that?
Yeah, my friend Ivy is a stand-up comedian, and she's been training at Upright Citizens Brigade Theater in LA, which is a huge improv stand-up school. So, and she's also applied for a diversity scholarship there. So I wanted to talk to her about being a comedian, being a full-time mom on top of all her other corporate jobs and her for funsies jobs, and also about diversity in the comedy scene and how it's becoming more important that more diverse voices are being heard in comedy.
Sounds great. Hard to choose between those. Okay.
We'll do both.
Eventually, yeah, that's the other thing. If you get fed up partway through, you can switch to a different story if you want. Some people don't want to stick with the same thing for 3 different pieces of writing. So that's cool. Micah?
Do you have release forms that we could use?
Over in the broadcasting department, there's a stack of them there.
Okay.
Go ask for master control, and against the wall is like there's bins with those release forms in them. Yeah. Again, I don't know if you're not planning on producing the audio that you actually capture, then
Oh, but
it's not necessary.
we don't need it if we're just doing it in the classroom.
If you're just doing a script, writing a script, and
Oh.
people are talking to you, that's not a problem.
All right.
Yeah. Nick, did you have your hand up?
Oh yeah, I was thinking if we needed release forms per se, if they were necessary.
No, not if you're not planning on producing it. You're just writing a script.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so since we on the lines of pirates and shit, so mine's a little different. So for my event, there is I'm not sure, maybe a couple people know. There's like they have this event in Oakland at New Parish like once a month called Ships in the Night, and it's have you heard of it? Nobody heard of it?
I've heard of it.
You've heard of it?
Yeah.
So basically, they put together like a big rave around like maybe 300 to 600 people a month, and all the proceeds that they raise that night goes to like a beneficiary, like an org or whatever. So that's a nonprofit, and basically they're like typically queer people, color organizations. So this particular event is going to be, the beneficiary is going to be a clinic called St. James Infirmary, which is like a sex workers clinic. So I'm gonna basically like go behind the scenes and talk to organizers on the ships tonight and their collaborative with the sex workers clinic, and it's gonna be kind of interesting. I know the organizers and stuff, so it's gonna be, you know.
You're guaranteed to be able to talk to somebody like that. Yeah,
Right.
that's good.
And
really good.
my profile is based on a community activist as well as a researcher. His name is Luis Gutierrez Mott, and he's been working in HIV prevention for around 15, 16 years. And they're piloting not piloting, I guess they are piloting a study for pre-exposure prophylaxis, PrEP, for, which is like one of the first adaptations for transgender women. So they just basically did the launch at Oakland Pride, and what I'm going to do is just like get all the history, like what makes you, and plus the person that's implementing the study has like a history of working with high-risk communities that are hard to reach.
Yeah,
so it's I'm just going to highlight that piece as well as get some input on Fireside, because with the cuts and like the budgets and NIH and everything, see how it affects the team as well as how it can affect the efficacy of the studies.
Yeah, gosh, that type of story would be really interesting to people in social sciences as well. You know, it's just like, how do you combine your research with activism and the whole context you were talking about, like budgets to keep this type of work going? I don't know. Both of those sound really, really good. Are you leaning towards one or the other more? Or?
I guess they're pretty. To me, they're both like kind of similar, but then they have like these things. It's like, I mean, PrEP is like so big right now, especially you know, by San Francisco being like the leader in HIV prevention and HIV care. It'll be really interesting because a lot of people don't know about PrEP, especially like cisgender men and women who are heterosexual. But you know, it'll be really good to just see how, just the process of it, and just get the word out that this, you know, this is a part, you know.
So it sounds like the second idea is capturing your attention right now. Anyway,
Yeah,
they both sound great.
That right there.
Yeah, they both sound great.
Yeah, sex worker clinic.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Forgive my, you know, clear interest in the second one, but it just brings me back to, you know, doing social research and stuff like way back. But both would be great, and yeah, they would take you into different places eventually on the website. I could see a lot more information, a lot more background, like as you say, informing the public, like what is PrEP and like how long has it been around, what kind of problems is it solving for people, that would be real excellent. So whatever you feel like. Yeah, okay, great, those are great. Other folks? I'm hoping to sort of hear from everybody, so it's not like you can sit back here and go, okay, now the hands go up.
I heard last time, so I don't want to.
Corey?
Well, I'm kind of, my first event piece is kind of similar to the next piece. I'm doing doing an event story on All Pro Wrestling. They're an indie local wrestling show. And they also do charity shows for different organizations. The one they're doing this Friday is for Jefferson High School. And then they're doing another one on the 10th of October for the Boys and Girls Club in Bayshore. So I already I Facebook messaged the owner and main promoter, and he's already agreed to interview this Friday. I've sent him the questions.
Cool.
So I'm just waiting to hear back to see what time he wants to meet.
Right.
Yeah. And my profile piece is, I was going to, just a backup plan, have a profile piece on one of the chefs here at City College. He's been the head chef for about 10, 15 years now, Chef Hamrick. I haven't asked him yet, but I know him pretty well. I mean, I went through that program before, so, you he's probably going to say yes.
Oh yeah, sure,
Yeah, yeah.
sure. But if you've already got something lined up and your questions written for the event, then go with the event.
Yeah.
Okay, great. But good options. And Shannon, what were you thinking of?
I know a woman who's a young scientist who's just launched a company that's it's meant to on a big picture make STI diagnosis and treatment more accessible and comfortable, as well as developing STI prevention that's made of algae and that's easily distributable in third world countries, and a model to allow the women in those areas to make a business of that themselves. So I just want to interview her about the importance of kind of not just of setting up a model like that for people, and also the struggle to get funding that she's going through currently. That was my profile.
Is this are you thinking more presenting her as an entrepreneur or as a social progressive entrepreneur, or would it be more like a research, like this is how we came up with all this?
Yeah, I guess that's a good thing to focus on, because I can't really get into the science too much of it. So I guess I should focus on maybe I wouldn't say entrepreneurship. I would say more of the social, like, because what she's more passionate about is like the accessibility and the importance of what she's doing, and not so much like the business side of it. So.
Well, yeah, okay. I don't know how it all fits together, but yeah, that sounds like a good focus, and it would you could ask her to explain for the layman like what exactly this stuff does without making it a in-depth science story,
Right.
but rather.
Yeah, like without having to actually sat down and done the interview with her and asked the questions, it's a little like abstract for me. So I'm waiting till I have a chance to actually talk to her and get some things I can wrap my head around.
Yeah. You always want to be open to what's going to come out when you're actually reporting, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, why would you report?
Exactly.
But then the thing that I always tell people in advance is like, have a story in your mind and see if things fit with that, because life works by storytelling and narrative, and so does the news in its way. And so if you have an idea of how to tell the story as you go out, then you know what you need to know. If you go out completely just open to whatever's going to happen, you may find yourself kind of like just with a ton of facts and like, what's the story I'm trying to tell? So, but I think if you look at her as somebody who's trying to bring this technology or this solution to people who really need it, then I think that story kind of is a good starting story.
Okay,
That's
cool.
what it is. Yeah. So I'm just trying to tell everybody that it's a good idea to come armed with an expectation, but to be wide open to what you can learn from your reporting. All of these, everything that everybody's talking about, it always, to me, is you kind of preface it in your head with like, well, what can we find out about this, So, and wherever you are in that process of learning about something, you're bringing along the people that you're writing for. You're bringing them along with you. So sometimes if you know a whole lot more than any of your audience does, it's work to backtrack and to the point where they can connect up with you, and then you can take that learning journey together. But I think that's one way to think about a lot of reporting. It's like, what can we find out about how this works, why this is happening, what this person is doing, and why they're doing it. There's a lot of simple stuff finally that you come back to. Who has some other story ideas for us? Yeah, it's Miko, right?
Yeah. So I'm reporting on an event that I went through like a few weeks ago, and it's a creative night market that's happening every third Friday of the month. So it's called Undiscovered SF, and it's located on the old. It's held over at the Old Mint, at 5th in Mission, south of Market. So they have like from food to like different vendors, retail, like accessories, everything like handmade and built by entrepreneurs in in the Bay Area. So they all they're all gathered there to showcase whatever product they have.
Sounds like a place to get discovered, kind of.
Yeah,
It's interesting.
I had a pleasure of I know somebody who volunteered and was part of the team, so I had he was able to introduce me to the organizer, like the main people that I should talk to.
Cool.
And we got an exchange of emails, and he agreed for a voice interview, like a call. So I guess I have to prepare my questions.
That sounds like you're in a good place with this story. You've got
Yes.
someone to talk to, and it might be interesting once you are there or talking to them, just to ask a little bit more about the exhibitors and what kind of things they're doing and what kind of outcomes they have had. I'm sure.
Yeah,
they must
it's
have
actually
some
like the
success
second.
stories.
It's the one that I went to was just like the second Friday. They launched around August, and this is like their second exhibit. So it's pretty new. Like I'm sure like over like in the future there will be like some better stuff that's gonna happen, or like some better things that could go through as long as the event keeps on going.
Got you. But it has good potential, and you have a good person to talk to. So on your way. That's good. Okay. Other stories? I know everybody's got one. Yeah.
Sure, it's gonna happen anyways. So my event was kind of a big one. It was gonna be the Free Speech Week over in Berkeley. But after hearing the time restraints and kind of how much time we have for sound bites and things, I think it might be a little too big for this assignment. So that might change to something smaller. But for now, that's what it is. My idea was to just kind of hear what both sides have to say and all of that, but not quite good for the scope of this assignment. And then the personal interview, the one-on-one, is with Jen Fujioka. She's the public policy manager at the CCDC, Chinatown Community Development Center. I want to speak with her about gentrification in Chinatown specifically. Her organization's kind of been, going against it for quite some time, mostly focusing on tenants' rights, but also in a general sense of what this new subway coming in and new businesses, restaurants in this China Live that just opened up a couple of months ago, what that means when different kinds of people that would never otherwise go there are coming there, some staying there.
Yeah.
What that means for the community.
Transformative. Yeah. This sounds like a great story.
So I think I'm going to go with that one.
Okay. And she seems to be like a person well positioned to tell this story.
Yeah, I don't know much about her background there, how long she's been there, but she's been in a few media pieces in the past. But if not her, I can ask someone at the organization who might be a better fit for the interview with someone within the organization.
Yes, it sounds good. So you've reached out to the organization already?
I like to have my questions ready before I call, just in case they're like, I'm ready now.
Okay.
So that'll be sometime probably next week. But for this one, it's not so time sensitive because it's not an event.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Okay, that sounds like a really interesting piece of neighborhood reporting there. That would be
hopefully
really interesting. Good. Okay, that's a good one. Yeah. All right. Other stories? I mean, I'm hoping that this is giving other people ideas or feeling confident about what they want to do when you hear some of these.
I already went to the event. It happened on Sunday. It's the 3 days event, Friday to Sunday. It's a San Francisco Met Fair. Very small event, but like from new people here in San Francisco. I want to know a bit more about history. And you can know the San Francisco history from the map, old map back to like 100 years ago, things like that. And also the building they organized it is like in Regency on Venice. It's like old buildings. It's interesting. And I actually use this. I Googled their website and there's a contact us. And I sent the email before I went there. I said I want to do the interview, but they get me back like after the event.
Oh, okay.
But it's okay because they could answer all my questions.
So you went
by
sort of on the
email,
fly.
like from email. It's okay. Yeah, it's like the organizer.
Is
He
that
responds.
the steamroller? The steamroller printing thing? No, right.
Just the map, old map. Yeah, and
So you've already got some information. How is
all the
that
information.
shaping up into a story for you? What was the most interesting stuff that you learned while you were there?
well, it's just like my friend was saying like it's boring because nobody's interested in like old map, but like think about from someone's new and like for example, there's like street name of San Francisco with like Grant, because I'm interested, like I'm curious of why Grant is not Grant anymore, but it's DuPont, and the Chinese name is still DuPont in Chinatown. So they all have these stories about the
Interesting.
streets.
So there's both an oddity factor as to why do these geeks want to get together and look at old maps,
And it's a
then there's
once a year
also-
thing. It's a map fair. You could buy the map. And they sell there all these booths, like selling maps, and some different organizations. And actually, the organizer, it's called History in Your Hand, but they're not there. They're from Chicago, and so I couldn't interview them. But like I had their contact already, and they already responded to me, say I could like email them with the interviews. And also the profile happens. I found a lecturer. He gave us a lecture with Charles something, and it's a 1.5 hour lecture, and he's actually a dictionary of San Francisco map. You can ask any question about which road, why this road is this name,
Okay.
and he can answer just like straight.
Interesting.
Yes,
So that's
and
an
actually he's a
interesting
banker.
personality.
He's a banker for 20 something years. Already interviewed that guy. The lecturer said like, how could you like
Right.
you have your banker's job and like you're interested in this map and like history and also involved so much in the map of California or something like that.
Okay. Okay.
So it's like profile and the events that happened at the same time. So
Connected, and you might even wind up combining somehow, like working on the event, but using the banker map dictionary guy as a kind of a way to focus stuff. It sounds great. It sounds to me, and you know, I have no way of knowing exactly what you got, but I think you should go through what you've got and find the information which is the most surprising, the most engaging to people who are listening. You know, as the event has a certain amount of oddity to it, like why are these people so interested in maps and stuff, and as you've mentioned a few kind of interesting, facts about names, things changing names and stuff like that. So I think maybe going deeper into what you learned and what's important about what you learned would be a good way to go here. Like for instance, my wife is from a country that was taken over by religious fanatics, and they changed a ton of road names, place names, basically to obliterate the history that they didn't want to be there, And I wonder, just in hearing that little bit of information you told us about name changes, like why is Grant not called Grant anymore or something, if there are not changes that are being done to our place names that would appear on maps that have maybe a smaller version of that are still, would relate to the idea that we remake the place based on what we want it to be, And so I'm not sure, but that's just something that popped into my head because it's something that I saw. Like we'd go back home and she'd be asking directions, and people wouldn't know where these places are because the names were changed like 20 years ago, stuff like that. And so it could be I don't know. There are reasons why names get changed, and maps are interesting artifacts.
The street that I live on used to be called First Avenue, but when the Presidio was closed, or like they were changing things at the Presidio to honor people who served there, so they changed First Avenue to Arguello Boulevard to honor a guy who was the general at the Presidio, and no one knows that, but there's parts of the street where you could still see it says First Avenue.
Oh, okay.
The concrete and stuff.
I've always known it as Arguello.
Yep.
So you know that.
It used to be First Ave.
Same with Cesar Chavez. No, only if you lived here long enough do you remember it as Army Street.
Yeah. Maybe even Funston, because I think that may have used to be 13th Avenue.
I always thought they wouldn't put 13 up.
Yeah, there's a couple of signs.
Bad Luck Avenue or something.
There's a couple of signs left of 13th Street.
And Funston was a big a-hole, so should have just gone with 13th.
Well, I'm glad to hear that at least a few people are interested in the changing names of streets and why that happens. So it might be an angle to pursue. I don't know. But I'm thinking that within this activity, there must be interesting sort of sub-stories or something like that, beyond just how odd it is for people to be so obsessive about, this type of artifact or knowledge or something. Thanks. But you've already done it. You're already far into it, so that's great. Yeah. Amy, did you want to tell us what you're working on?
I'm gonna do the interview with an event. It's like a part of Film Night in the Park. Have you heard about that?
Film Night in the Park?
Yeah. It's a like annual event, so you can watch the movie in the nighttime and in the park. So
Okay.
this is a Saturday. You can watch the movie in the Dolores Park. So after sunset, you can watch. This is for free, everything. So you can just bring your blanket and then your jacket, and then this is a by SFNTF. This is the San Francisco Neighborhood Theater Foundation. They just wanted to like protect their theater, old theater. This is a foundation, so they usually give people for free movie.
I see.
So it's already 6 movies released. So Union Square and then Dolores Park and the Washington Square Park. So the
Okay.
last one is coming this Saturday.
All right, and they partner with this, I guess, the Parks and Recreation of the city to present these. Is it always in a park? Is there?
Yeah, it's always a park. So the last one in La La Land.
That's what they're showing?
Yeah, they did it in Union Square.
Okay. And you're in contact with organizers?
Yeah, I send them the contact and then they don't answer them.
Okay, so go looking for phone numbers or, a second attack is all usually necessary. Yeah. Cool. Okay. Terrific. Others? One more. This will be the last one. Promise. There you go, Lori.
Hi. So the portfolio that I have in mind is this vaporwave DJ coming from Philadelphia this Saturday at this event that I'm co-hosting. I've interviewed him before, but it was like on the phone, and I decided that maybe I would do a second edition interview with him and talk about his like new album and any other things that he's working on. I was gonna plan the event idea for my event, but I didn't think that would work out if I like interviewed the other co-host. I think that's like a conflict of interest. I'm not sure.
It's pretty close to home, I guess. Yeah. So, what is vaporware?
Vaporwave.
Vaporwave, thank you.
Genre of music.
I got that, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Really?
It's like chopped and screwed 80s music.
What is chopped and screwed?
Chopped
It's
and
like
screwed.
slowed down.
Slowed down hip hop from Texas.
Oh Jesus Christ.
Oh, there we go. Now we're getting
Chopped and
specific.
Screwed by Ludacris and T-Pain.
Yeah, that was the song I remember.
All right. So you've interviewed this person before, and did the result go beyond, this is my latest thing, I hope you like it, or like?
It went to, he described like how he got into vaporwave and like who were his time, and then he got to work with those idols, and other random things like what's his favorite movie, or like any other music genres that he finds influenced by, things like that.
Yeah, yeah,
Just like general miscellaneous.
yeah. It sounds current. It sounds. I'm thinking you need an angle on this, be more than just here's this guy, this is what he does. Maybe looking into the importance of what he does. I'm not sure. It's that's anybody see a potential kind of storyline through that?
Maybe like why would they choose a specific era of music to alter, and how do they describe this type of music to people who maybe like the original versions of it?
I guess
and
maybe use
the
him-
logic of it or something.
Maybe
Maybe.
use him to explain vaporwave to people who don't know it.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm
that's
headed with that.
Yeah, point. That would be because vaporwave is very hard to explain.
Brian was able to do that in a sentence, so you'll still have the rest that's necessary. But yeah.
And also, like, especially for like artists that are like trying to cut it out in the Bay Area. How does this is a local artist as well?
Oh, one of them is from Philadelphia, and then one of them is from Berkeley, and another one is from Oregon.
Maybe highlight their touring, and their experience of
Yeah.
how their music impacts certain regions where stuff is like the Bay Area is like a melting pot of different styles of music. So probably highlight, how their music, how they would, how when they go to certain towns and stuff, what's the impact the audience has? What's their impact on the audience? Yeah. There's a lot, that is some starving artists. We got some starving artists in the industry, and that particular genre, like I never heard of it. It makes sense, but
That's good, I like it.
Are they like pioneers of this genre, or?
Yeah, one of them from Philadelphia is the kind of like pioneer.
What's his name?
Death's Dynamic Shroud. WAV. I know that sounds like so weird and nerdy, but
You could also see how he feels about or they, I guess in general, feel about subgenreing so much and like it being so niche, and if they feel limited at all by that, or if it's kind of like, I don't know, after a certain while you formulate this subgenre and you roll with it for so long, but does that make them feel limited at all, or like how that affects their music making and future projects and stuff like that?
You should probably say something about the internet, since that's like the whole genre is the internet pretty much.
How so, Ryan? What's the
It's
idea?
like that kind of music wouldn't be able to like spread out if it wasn't for the internet. Like,
Is that because
music
it's
got
so-
spread on the internet? Like people that make it have like a large following on the internet. It's not
Okay.
like
It came from
psychedelic
it came
60s
from like
music,
message
like,
boards
music.
and everything.
Social media.
It's like a kind of an offshoot of cyberpunk in some ways. Because of the it's like a whole political statement at the same time as being a genre of music.
Okay. So I like all of what I'm hearing. The attempts to throw a story around this, and also the idea that there may be more significance to the genre than simply, this is a cool thing, because. Believe it or not, one of the advantages of being so old and out of touch is it's kind of like I've seen a lot of different genres, and everybody thinks that they're the greatest when they're in it, and then it's kind of meaningless to everybody who's out of touch. But if you can convince me or just relate to me the social importance of it or the challenge of developing it, and all of these would be great. So yeah, and I don't mean to pick on you. I've had a lot of stories that are like, here's an artist, this is their latest thing, and it's like, so I think you got some good impulses here. So.
yeah, thanks guys.
All right, great. Okay, what were we gonna do? We got like 7 minutes left. Any questions coming out of this that we should clarify about this? Yeah.
Like in terms of the script, like what's the limit?
Well, it'll be like a time limit for the radio feature, 2 minutes times out. You can time it yourself, but it'll turn out to be, I'm just trying to calculate in my head. It's usually like 12 seconds a line, so it's going to be pretty short. Yeah.
There are some people in chat who've been mentioning what their story
Oh,
is.
let's try to. I thought I just dropped in there and I saw Cedar.
Yeah. It's not loading and refreshing quick enough.
There we go.
Yeah, you have to refresh. You have to refresh that.
Okay. I don't know why would mine just freeze? Anyhow, let's see. Let's read this out. Gotcha. So is Jackson?
Yeah, Jackson and then Enrique, I believe.
Oh my gosh, guys. Okay. Well, let's go with Enrique's because it just showed up here. So, whoops. So much for the idea that I could make everybody be able to read it. Si La Vida is the first Latino Chicano specific HIV program in San Francisco in 1985. Today, Si La Vida Integrated HIV Services provides a range of culturally based services for Latinos at risk of infection and those living with an HIV/AIDS in San Francisco. We'll be attending this Castro Street Fair. They'll be there and provide free HIV testing to the community. I will be attending the event, be working with one of their social workers, Antonio Ramos. He will walk us through the services and the process of planning such events. The reporting on this event will be of major significance to the Latino community. Okay, I can see that point. I think the challenge here is to make it more than kind of a PR about this is what we do, this is where to get the service. So Enrique, if you can, again, going to personalities and people who've benefited from this as well, whether it's Antonio Ramos, who can tell us, some of the more immediate outcomes. In other words, some of the ones that have affected individuals that makes for good storytelling. I think that might add on to the basic information you want to get out there, which it has its place, but this should be a little more than that. So that's great. Carmen?
Would highlighting the cultural differences also help make that more than a PR because it's specifically a Latino event or program, and Latino culture, especially when it comes to HIV/AIDS and gay culture, they're very like hush-hush,
right,
and not talking about it because unfortunately Latino culture is very Christian-based, and so that could be an angle of why this program is needed specifically.
Sounds great. Let me just repeat it for Enrique in case that wasn't so clear. Sometimes the mics don't pick it up, so Carmen's suggesting you might touch on the cultural difference, which would lead members of the Latino community to be less forthcoming about HIV/AIDS, or maybe not seek out information as explicitly as other people. So that's a great suggestion. Yeah. So, and Shannon?
I just read an article last week that the number of AIDS cases are going down in San Francisco, that we have very few new cases. So the work that organizations like this are doing, that people are doing with getting PrEP out to people is making a huge impact. So you could focus on the impact that all of the assorted groups like this one and, St. James Infirmary, all the groups that are working together for this one huge, audacious common goal, but they're actually chipping away at it.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so Enrique, Shannon's suggesting you might throw a frame of success around this, given that apparently there's fewer cases of HIV/AIDS presenting now. Maybe it's a sign that the outreach is having a positive effect.
I do see that that's going to, in terms of showing like the numbers with them coming down, that's going to probably present a barrier in terms of data quantitative analysis and getting like specific numbers for organizations like in their databases, because most people we all keep stuff private, especially clients' names. And I find it interesting. I want to see how could he get information in terms of the decrease.
The Public Health Department releases a report every single year about their works with HIV/AIDS, and they don't, of course, HIPAA violation, provide names, but they provide numbers and some statistics as to demographic and how they've received their treatment. Yeah.
Cool. And Nick, did you have something for Enrique?
Oh no, I actually was asking about the project in general.
Okay, shoot.
So for the TV and the web part, or can we elongate the time of what we're doing? Like if we have what?
Yes, it gets longer each time. Because you have to add a source, you have to add visuals, and then to the web, you can add a great deal because the web has basically limitless space. Yeah, so it'll get longer each time as you add.
So we can use a little bit of our interview for the radio, and the rest of it for the TV and the web.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So you'll be going back to what you've done and expanding more on it. And Jackson says he's planning on doing a profile on Jack Kurtzman, the studio manager at Hyde Street Studios. So an audio professional, I guess.
I would have a suggestion. How music studio business has changed dramatically since the advent of the internet and the inability to really sell music. So people that used to make tons of money producing records for others are barely struggling and getting by. Now he's probably doing all right, but long gone are the days of like Nile Rodgers and big producers that make loads of money. So I would ask, what is it that is so special about his studios that have kept him afloat? And also maybe focus on some of the struggles of being a competitive studio and a music producer in such a tough industry, just to keep it interesting.
Gotcha. Jackson, I hope you caught that.
And they're still using a Neve, so that's interesting.
Nice. Audio insider talk. Okay, Jackson, so Araceli is suggesting that you talk about the context of that has taken the bottom out of the music business and see how Jack Kurtzman has navigated that, how Hyde Street has made it through, and maybe some strategies for survival. And I'm sure I forgot something you were saying there.
Just why this guy is so important in the industry, or any thoughts to make it less about, oh, here's a cool guy doing audio.
What makes him unique?
Yeah.
It's pretty unique. Gotcha. Okay, fantastic. So that's the end of class today. Thank you, everybody, for sharing your stories. We will see everybody next time, October 10th, whenever you feel like dropping.